Hi there folks, welcome back to the Morris Minor series. The engine is now apart and yeah, not the best news. She's a bit tired. So let's go to 80 in the past and see the little golden gem of this engine come apart. Well, today is the day. Yep, it's time to start stripping this bottom end down, and we can see what's going on inside, because we've got unhappy cylinders, so we need to investigate them, and we need to make a list of anything else we're going to need. So we do need to have a look at the crankshaft, camshaft. So I'm going to start taking bits off. We'll get rid of the oil filter, the clutch, timing chain, etc. Get them covers off, get the sump off, and we'll get the pistons knocked out. So that's the plan. Alright, let's get a few bits removed. No doubt we'll have some residual oil about, and that filter will be full. Alright, what else can we take off? Nope, not that one. So, as well as making a list of what's needed for the bottom end here, we also need to investigate the cylinder head, because even though number 2 cylinder was squirting water out on a compression test, that coolant that was in there had not contaminated what was in the sump. And having driven all the way over from sort of Sheffield way, you would have expected it to be rather milky and emulsified, but no. Now, let me get something poking. You can see that core plug, it's looking rather gooey. It's rather bulged. Anyway, that's why we're here. Get as much off as we can, just to make it easier to turn over. and then we can get the sump off. For now, I'm just going to put some of these bolts back where they came from, and when the great cleanup begins, I know where everything goes. Right, next. So, what do you guys think the crankshaft bearings will be like? More so the big ends on the connecting rods? I bet that's firmly stuck in place. Yes. You know the drill, folks. Hashtag still no sponsor. Right, I'll leave that to soak, and I'll get the clutch off, and I'll bring you back after that. As you can see, clutch is off. And there she flies. Oil draining everywhere, why not? We'll pop this delightful little filter in a position where it can drain out. Has to be said, the flywheel doesn't look that bad. And you can see that. 1 and a 4 there, when number 4 and number 1 piston are at the top. Makes it easier to remember. Right, the flywheel can come off. Get these little side covers off, and then we can flip the engine over and take the sump off. Right. Yep. Cheap nasty whiz popper. Well, yeah. Make light work of these little 9/16 bolts. Simply remove. Let's take a closer look. Moist. Yes, there's definitely been some leakage out of the rear crankshaft oil seal looking at that. In fact, she's been sweating from all over. Anyway, I think it's time to get the covers off the side. Right, next up. of these two. Seems to be a lot of sealant around there. Quite firmly glued in place. Yeah. Right, something to wiggle our way in. As tight as these are, I do suspect they have been leaking. Despite being firmly attached. I'll give those some manipulation. Well, that was actually easier than I thought. Come on, come on. There she flies. Yes, I think that one had been leaking there, which would explain a lot of the oil. Yeah. Moving on. Seems we have one camshaft follower coming out, which is obviously full of oil. Actually, to be fair, that doesn't look too bad. Right, you sit there and we shall find something to lay these out in order. Metal tin to the rescue, which is actually dated 1952. So this does now mean I can lift all of these cam followers out, empty the oil out of them, and line them up in order in there. So I shall do that next. Okay. Let's take these out. Pull the oil out. Take a look at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, folks, but there's some wear on that one. So that's number 8. Number 7 out. Yeah, that one's the same. Little bit of wear on it. Yeah, they're all showing a bit of wear, but it is expected. And now that one, despite a bit of scoring, shows it has been rotating. What happens is they stop rotating in these bars that they sit in, and the camshaft's always hitting the same piece, and it wears a groove on it. Again, that one's not too bad. The one we looked at, not too bad. And number one. Not too bad. Right, I think with those removed, I'll tip the block upside down and we can remove the sump. Why not? I thought I would just lay it on its flywheel end. Had a few scrapes. Need to make sure none of those are leaking. So I can kind of get to all the bolts, so we'll remove those, pull the pan and take a look at the crankshaft. What a delightful mess. See the camshaft in there. See the bottom of the pistons just protruding down. Right, I think what we shall do is undo the connecting rods and knock the pistons out. So number one didn't actually look too bad. And then you get to number two. A lot of marks and things in there. And then you get to number three. And again, that looks grim. And then we get to number four, and even though it doesn't look as bad, that most noticeable clean line running around the cylinder there is very, very noticeable to the fingernail, which, yeah, isn't good. So, unfortunately, it's going to need some love. Right, it's upside down, and I mentioned end float of the crankshaft. which is basically moving backwards and forwards in the block. Yeah, there's a bit. I need to measure the movement, but at this stage I say we're going to be having new crankshaft bearing shells, etc. So what it is what it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to knock these two tabs off, down, and just take off this centre main bearing cap and just see what the state of play is. Right, I've just undone the two bolts. Not exactly tight is the crankshaft, she's nice and free. Here she flies. What do you reckon, folks? Good or bad? You know what? I expected that. Yeah, I expected that, folks. So on that bombshell, that's it for today. Probably not for the video, but I'm hungry, so I'm off to go get something to eat. And I shall resume this in the morning. Well, it's the next day. The timing gear is off. I still can't believe somebody actually filed that piston. And I've also got the end plates off the block. So pretty much all that is left is to remove the crankshaft. Now, it has been noted that these two journals have suffered the worst on the big ends, and they will share its oil supply from that main cap, I guess, whereas the end ones, the drillings go that way. I wonder if there's a blockage somewhere. There seems to be a bit of a theme here of bodged. Right, I've undone all the bolts. It says freed off all the caps. So now we can have a look at the crankshaft main bearings. Now we did see this middle one that controls the thrust, and as you can see, showing a lot of copper. So stand that one out of the way somewhere safe. You can see in the middle there where the crankshaft doesn't actually run. Right, next one. Oh, these are filthy. Same again, down to the copper. And lucky last. Come on. Doing so well. There she flies. And again, down to the copper. I'll be honest, I'm not surprised. Right, lift the crankshaft out. Lovely. Well, the crank is out. We can now take a closer look inside. Sadly, with worn main bearings, it does reduce oil pressure to the big end bearings. And the middle two, I've definitely felt the pain, which does make me wonder if this oil feed here has a blockage. There will be a bung in it somewhere, at either end of the oil gallery. I'd say that's one there. And I bet they've never been out. So with the crankshaft out, and all the pistons out, and a block, well, still a few more bits to remove, but we know what we're dealing with now. I've decided we might as well get all the disappointment out of the way first. Now, there was no obviously blown head gasket. If you remember, there was no coolant in the oil, there was no emulsification. So, how would you put this? That would suggest it was possibly happening after combustion. For example, maybe in an exhaust port. Now, hang on. It was number 2 that was squirting water. See the earlier videos. However, number 3 has some very crusty deposits around the exhaust. Now, this has allegedly also been converted for unleaded, so we'll be able to check for that as well. But anyway, me muttering. I've taken the valve springs off. So basically now, we can take out the valves. Oh dear. Something stopping that. Oh, yeah, that one came out. So, one rather cute valve. You can see there's a lot of moisture being in there. Why's that one not want to come out? Let me just investigate that. Right, where's the hammer? Right, now I've rectified that. Yeah, that's a little bit excessive. And again, there's been a lot of water sat at that side of the valve. Does that mean we've got a crack? Bear in mind these 2 ports are Siamese and sat on the hole, but yeah, they literally go down one hole. So I'm going to clean these up and we'll take a look. Well, had a little clean up and it was only a little clean up. Nothing obvious to see really, even though some of the casting does have some little pit. Can't focus properly. Yeah. Anyway, one thing is for sure, it's never had its unleaded conversion. They're definitely not hardened valve seats. So, really, it wants a pressure test, and then maybe we can determine what the problem is. questionable cylinder bores, especially that one. You can feel that ridge. A rather worn crankshaft and bearing shells. Oddly, a piston that's been filed. Not rotating, not, possibly, not, yeah. Number 2, suspiciously hard rust in the exhaust port and a rather rusty valve. The owner said he was informed the cylinder head had been converted for unleaded, but yeah, I'm not seeing it. Plus, if they had, would they have left that much wear in the guides? I think not. Well folks, as you can see, got lots to clean up, measure up, but it's safe to say we are now balls deep, as it were. Yes, it's about as bad as it could be, really. Still not sure about the cylinder head, whether that is the cause of the coolant leak, more so because there was no coolant in the oil, but there was an oily substance in the coolant, which, if you had a cracked exhaust port, it would fit this scenario. So, definitely a pressure test for the head. So on that, folks, on that bombshell, folks, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing. Appreciate it when you comment and interact. Just like to mention the Bearded Bodger has now got over 1,000 subscribers, so big thank you if you was one of those subscribers, and finally now we will shut up about it. I'm only joking, Bodger. So anyway folks, catch you on the next one.